G'day guys and welcome back to AdosTheGreat YouTube channel. So we're finally back with my tier list videos, guys. So obviously these are my power rankings for round 7. So at this point these are how I rank each team. And you guys can let me know if you disagree or if you agree. Would love to hear from you guys. Now the last few weeks I've been just posting my power rankings, but today we're back doing videos. I've only just gotten my computer back this week. It has been a long wait for this bloody computer to come back. I think it's been like 3 weeks. I'm just glad I've got it. So without further ado, let's jump in and see how we go. So my power rankings. We'll start with the bottom. Obviously the Tigers are last. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes about that. They're definitely last. Now, then I've got the Bulldogs. Now, you guys might go, well, they're higher up than the Cowboys. Yeah, but the Cowboys have been playing better than the Bulldogs. And I know the Bulldogs beat the Cowboys, I think. Yeah, they did. This was that Burton bloody field goal. They're injured. There's a lot going on with the Doggies at the moment. And the Cowboys' losses, while they haven't been great, they haven't been terrible either. So for me, I think that's fair. Cowboys are then just ahead of the Bulldogs. Still disappointing, but not that bad. Then I've gone the Dragons. Dragons, another team that, started off the season, I thought, geez, they might do all right. And they fell off. So, I don't know how to read them because last week they weren't too bad against the Raiders, but there was still a lot of errors. So, with that being said, Raiders are just above the Dragons, only basically because they beat them. But yeah, look, I think these would be everybody's final five. I don't think, or bottom five. I don't think anybody would really argue with these five. If you do, let me know why in the comments. But I think this is a fair ranking here, to be honest. Next up, I've gone with Para. Not really too much to talk about here. They're playing all right. They are. They're not. Had a good win over the Dogs. Really good win. But they've started the season 3 wins, 4 losses. It's been a tough draw. It has been a tough draw, but I can only go off what I've seen, and unfortunately, I can't rank the Eels any higher. Next up, in 11th, I've gone with the Titans. BKR, mate, I love you, but you guys have struggled, and it's not really the team's fault. The injuries have been a massive issue. Once they get back to full strength, I do think that they can contend for a top 8 spot. But now, as it stands, I can't have them any higher, unfortunately. Next up, and this one is probably going to be arguably the most controversial, I've got the Dolphins. I think they're finally starting to come down to earth a little bit. Good first half against the Rabbitohs last week, but that second half was disappointing. Like the Titans and the Bulldogs, though, they are riddled with injuries. So once they get those players back, they definitely could improve. But for me, I think 10th is probably a fair place to put them. 9th, I've got the Knights. Knights have been pretty good without being great. Like, they haven't been too bad. They have not been too bad. They got the draw with Manly. He nearly got another draw or win over the Panthers. Like, it was close. They're impressing people. They are impressing people. I can't have them in my top 8 because I think each of these teams are better, regardless of where they're sitting on the ladder. I do think that these 8 teams are better, although nobody in these 8. So they're all above the Knights regardless in the top 8. But yeah, look, the Knights, I get they've got injuries as well, which is crazy because with their big names out, they're competing and winning and playing pretty good footy. So it's funny if they get their guns back and they go playing really well again, then they're definitely a top 8 contender. But for now, 9th spot seems fair. All right, 5th to 8th. So we're obviously doing 8th first. This is hard because you could make an argument for all of these teams. I'm going to put the Roosters at 8th. Again, it's just difficult. It is difficult to rank them like this, but Their discipline is what's killing the Roosters, and I can't rank them any higher at the moment. Next up, I know it's a big call, but I'm going the Sharks. The Sharks weren't great last week, but they weren't terrible either. Like, they got the win over the Roosters, but I would argue that the Roosters were probably the better team, and the Sharks won it due to the sin bins. The sin bins, obviously the Roosters' fault, but Sharks, shout out to them. You know, they got the win. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. And the Roosters, they've only got themselves to blame for those sin bins. They were fair sin bins, so I agree. With that loss to Manly, Storm fall a little bit for me, but I still think they're definitely a premiership threat. Yeah, I can't really put them any higher. A bit worried about Manly, but then when they come out and play like that against Storm, you know, pretty good. So I've got Manly at 5. Yeah, it's just they're very inconsistent. They had that draw with the Knights. I didn't think they were too crash hot in that. Then they struggled against the Panthers, which a lot of teams do. But yeah, I just it's hard to rank them at the moment. It is so hard to rank these teams, to be fair. But I think this is probably the closest I feel. I'm putting the Warriors at 4th now. I know a lot of you guys might say the Warriors should be higher. But again, you know, while they're playing great, they're also there's been games where they've struggled. Like that game against the Knights, I didn't think they were great. At home, I'd say they nearly beat anybody on their day. I really would. But for me, I think 4th spot is fair for them at this point in time. Next up, we've got my Rabbitohs. I'm putting them in 3rd. Confidently putting them in 3rd. Really good win over the Bulldogs. Put 50 points on them. Got a good win, especially in that second half against the Dolphins. I'm proud of where they're sitting at the moment. They're doing really well. And if we can beat Penrith this week, I think we are definitely a premiership threat. On the topic of Penrith, I've got them in 2. 13 errors, I think it was 13 or 14 errors against the Knights isn't good enough. And it shocked me that the Panthers made those errors, but they're the type of team that wins even with those errors. Like they get the job done. That's why I've got them in 2nd. First spot, Broncos. They've just looked elite all year. Yeah, they had that one game against the Raiders, but the Raiders, to their credit, played pretty well. Like, I think the Broncos just underestimated them, and you can't do that, especially in 2023. You can't underestimate a team unless it's the Tigers. But yeah, look, I think the Broncos for me are number 1. So we'll go over it once more. Broncos 1st, Panthers 2nd, Rabbitohs 3rd, Warriors 4th. If we look at the ladder, Broncos are 1st, Panthers are 2nd, Rabbitohs are 5th, Warriors are 3rd. So there's a little bit of a jumble there, but I think for the power rankings, this is definitely fair. We've then got Manly, Storm, Sharks, and Roosters. Manly are sitting 4th, Sharks are 6th, Storm are 7th, and Roosters are 9th. Outside of that, you've got the Knights, Dolphins, Titans, and Eels, who all move down a little bit. Also, the Knights actually move up a little bit, just because of how competitive they've been recently. And then Raiders, Dragons, Cowboys, Bulldogs, and Tigers. Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to hear from you. But that is going to wrap it up from me, though, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, my friends, I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.